So the Golden State Warriors, they have a problem. It's a real big one. And unfortunately, they did not address it at the trade deadline. And the only reason why is because it's very uncomfortable to talk about. For those who don't know, we are post-trade deadline, and the Warriors, very similar to a lot of other teams in the NBA, decided to stay packed, didn't really make any significant trades. The Warriors did trade off Corey Joe, but that's not really a needle mover. And this is definitely concerning for a team that has been underwhelming all season long. We thought that they were going to trade somebody because after moving off of Jordan Poole, they brought in Chris Paul. Chris Paul has a massive expiring contract, and that didn't really work out because nobody was really interested in him. Not only because how much money he's making like $30+ million, and of course you have to find a suitor who's willing to either move off of $30 million themselves in one person or move off of $30 million themselves with a conglomerate of players, as well as probably want something in return outside of just cap flexibility. And it just doesn't stop there. The whole season for the Warriors has been a massive debacle. Andrew Wiggins is having the worst basketball of his career. Steph Curry's had some highs and lows. Draymond has been suspended. But the biggest problem that the Warriors have faced, and it's something that people just don't want to talk about, it's Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson has been a massive uncomfortable story for the Warriors throughout the entire season. It started a little bit last year in the postseason. It's carried on this year, and it's gotten really out of control. We're talking about one of the big three, the core three players in Dre, Klay, and Curry has not been panning out. He's struggling mentally, and we're talking about a player that was on an expiring contract, making $40+ million. He's going into the offseason looking for some type of money, and the Warriors decided to not trade him, to not move off of him, to keep him on the roster. And when doing that, it does imply that you're going to sign him to an extension in the offseason, which could definitely be detrimental. Now, for those who don't know how bad it has been, it's been really, really rough. So far this season, he's not having the greatest year, but since December, since Christmas, it's been really hard to watch. He's averaging 16 points. He's only grabbing around 2 to 3 rebounds, 2.5 assists, but the shooting splits are just abysmal. Sub 40% from the field, 36% with the long ball, and is only getting to the free throw line one time. Defensively, he's not the same. Decision-making, it's just bad. He's not the same dribbler, athletic type of player on the wing as he once was. And a lot of his confidence, and I think that's the thing that really, really concerns a lot of people, has been shot. Klay Thompson has been the definition of don't care. I don't care. I'm that guy. I can make the shots that I'm going to take. And sure, you're going to go through some lows here and there. Klay Thompson's confidence has wavered a lot. And when your confidence starts to waver, bro, you're going to be very, very hard to kind of grasp it back, especially when you're aging, you're coming off of career-altering injuries, and you're dealing on a team that has not given you what you probably believe is the value that you have provided to this roster and this organization. And now you're looking at free agency in the upcoming months, and you don't know what you're going to get. And to make it worse is that they might actually be performing better when you're not even available or you're not playing on the floor, because now Steve Kerr has started to bench him in the fourth quarter. And not only that, a lot of Warrior fans are starting to realize, bro, since the 2022 run, Klay has not really been it. Shout out to my man Terry Worse here. He says, since the start of the 2022 season, the Warriors are 74-71 when Klay plays, 44-21 when Klay sits. That's telling. What's even more telling is a lot of the body language that's on the sideline as well. Klay Thompson, they've been catching this man being upset, very disturbing, aggressive, just completely standoffish with some of his teammates. People try to consult him. He still doesn't want to hear it. He seems very frustrated when he's sitting on the sideline because he's being benched in the fourth quarter. His teammates are cheering on. The players are on the floor. He's not participating in that whatsoever. And then even the body language from Steve Kerr and Steph Curry hasn't been the greatest with some of the shot selection from Klay. And I think that's definitely the biggest telling point with Klay is that these numbers don't really tell you the whole story. The story is much worse when you actually watch Klay Thompson attempt these shots and how badly he's missing these shots.
Full cycle to Wiggins, better look to Klay. Doncic ends up on the Warrior bench, playing at the side of the backboard.
For that split cut to Klay. Tough three. Looney, another rebound. Somehow gets it to step behind the back to Klay. Another three. That's another tough one.
So, of course, it brought into conversation what exactly are the Warriors going to do at the deadline. Of course, they had the option to trade Kuminga, Chris Paul, Wiggins, and Klay. In my opinion, however, Klay has been the biggest uncomfortable conversation because if you don't trade him, which they didn't trade him, you're going into the offseason and you're going to give him a contract. I think Wiggins, he's under contract. There's not really much you can do there. Chris Paul, his money next year isn't fully guaranteed, who doesn't really care either. And then Kuminga, he's actually been providing the evidence that he should be receiving more minutes, which is even more detrimental to the role that Klay plays on this roster, because Klay's out there trying to make things work, but everyone knows that on the bench, players like Moses Moody and Kuminga are better than Klay Thompson. They should be receiving a starting role. Steve Kerr has already made the decision to take Wiggins out of the starting lineup, put in other players. Klay Thompson knows that that time is next for him. He knows. And I have to say this, as uncomfortable as all this sounds, I hate it myself. I'm not even a Warriors fan. It sucks. It sucks. Klay Thompson was one of the most enjoyable, funnest players to ever watch. I really, it's been a treat watching him play, shoot the piss out of the basketball and just do it unconsciously. Doesn't really care. He's on the floor pulling up, jacking threes. It's been great. It's been a treat. But when those shots are not falling, it's really, really hard to watch. It's hard to just watch him acknowledge his morality, that his career, his identity as this superhero, this shooting superhero, it's coming to a close and we're watching it. It's tough. It really is tough. I feel sorry for him because 2015, 2016, shit that he was doing like 5 years ago, man, some of the most enjoyable basketball I've ever witnessed in my life. The way him and Curry were shooting was crazy. Where we are right now, it's just uncomfortable. It's unbearable. It's hard to watch. It sucks. It really does suck. But I think it's even more disturbing when I hear Klay have these conversations after the game. He's already been on record saying, I feel physically great, mentally probably a little different of a story. That's concerning because, again, that's your confidence. He talks about what it feels like to be benched in the fourth quarter and how that kind of really messes with him as well.
When you say that, I mean, is it just a shooting struggle? Shooting, yeah, pride myself in that stuff. So.
What are they talking about? You ain't played to finish the game? I got benched game 5 of the finals. Who the f cares?
Well, I haven't asked that yet, but I will now.
Huh?
I said I haven't asked it yet, but
Oh, you like you about to. So I answered it for you. Already.
I mean, you didn't close tonight. That's obviously going to be a story. I mean,
It's all good. These guys played great. He played great. PP, Jonathan. At the end of the day, winning trumps all.
is this an adjustment period for you a little bit? I mean, he's done it in a few games, obviously.
Yeah. You kidding me? Go from one of the best players. It's hard for anybody. I'll be honest with you.
Very hard. Does it matter, Klay? I mean, obviously you've had so many great games. Does it matter if just having a game or two in a row where things go well to have things flip the other way?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And is the way the last year went sort of something you can...
Definitely gives me confidence to keep going.
And that definitely hurts because you feel as if like at any point he can get it going. But we're at a point where the Warriors are trying to compete, they're trying to get things going, and they've leveraged a lot in draft capital that just did not work out with Jordan Poole, James Wiseman. To be fair, Kuminga, it seems like he's on the rise. He's emerging as a more competent player. But Jordan Poole and Kuminga are no longer on the roster. And now that those things have fallen off, they are now having to rely even more on the veteran presence that has been there, that is relied upon them, or they've been relying on them. And because it hasn't worked out, they've now had to rely even more on the veteran presence that has been there. And to be fair, has more or less been reliable. And here we are. And I think Curry and Draymond do not get enough credit for this. Do y'all know how difficult it is to play at the level that Curry is playing at this stage of his career? Do y'all know how difficult it is for Draymond to be giving you this level of defense, despite the fact that the team has slowly regressed defensively with his personnel, despite the fact that we're talking about a roster that is depending on him even more defensively at an advanced age, and he still more or less is the same defender relative to his age. He's still a really great defender, and it looks even worse when those two players are playing at that level, and this is the version of Klay that you're left with when you're trying to still maximize the latter part of those two players' primes. It sucks. It really does suck. But it's going to be interesting on how exactly the Warriors address this whole Klay Thompson situation, because it doesn't get better. $40+ million expiring this season. We're going into the offseason trying to figure out what you're going to get for Klay. They decided to stay packed with him, and I understand it's the loyalty tax. He's been there. He stuck it through. He was a part of all of this, and you can't just push that aside. But when you decide to go on that path, what you will see at the end of the road may not be enjoyable, may not be bearable, may not be something that you want to discuss and talk about. Uncomfortable conversations about Klay Thompson will be happening soon, very soon, because he is definitely a big part of the problem for the Golden State Warriors this year. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very concerning, and I do think that it's going to be uncomfortable. I wish the best for Klay Thompson. I really do hate that it turned out this way. We miss you, bro. We miss old Klay. I know we're not going to get him probably anytime soon, but it definitely sucks.